Hi, my name's Fezazen. I make games, but you probably know that already because of the title of the video, and also from maybe watching videos I've made before. Most people know me from my main projects on Roblox, and yeah, I know Roblox isn't all that credible or has a good reputation. I've been working on a game lately in C# with the Monogame framework. The name I have for this game is Blue Sunny Day, and it's inspired by a song by Jonathan Coulton. The game is going to be a difficult platformer about like a heartbroken vampire attempting to find the pieces of its heart. I don't really have much of the story written right now, so I can't really give more away. Anyway, I'll show you the progress I've made over these past few months. I originally wanted to make this game in C++ with my own framework or SDL, but I didn't really like the idea of writing a decently sized game in a language that I was still learning. I've had experience with Unity and C# and obviously Roblox and Lua. I have this obsession with writing my own things myself, so I did some research and found Monogame. Monogame is an open source cross-platform C# and .NET game framework. I found a few tutorials by Games from Scratch that helped me set up a project and learn the structure of Monogame. I recommend watching his videos or following his website tutorials if you wish to learn Monogame. And he also has like a few other framework tutorials and game engine tutorials. After this, I took off and made my first game demo. So you can see I have this red square and I'm able to move it around with A and D, and the FPS display is in the top left corner. It's not very impressive, but it's a start. Next, I decided to add some basic accelerated movement, gravity, and jumping. I also tweaked some of the values and added air friction. I also wanted to add some basic collision to the game, and for whatever reason I'm horrible at collision detection and collision response, so I decided to use a library by Ned Lannon, I think that's how you pronounce it, and the library is called Humper. Why is it called Humper? Anyway, it's similar to a Lua library called Bump, so I had an easy time setting it up and getting it to work with my project. I added some collision types. The blue block is for full collision, so all sides collide with the block, and the white one allows the player to jump through it. At this point, I was pretty okay with what I had done in Monogame, but I realized that if I want to make levels for my game, I'm going to have a level editor. So I decided to make my own level editor. Now, you could ask, why don't I just use tiled? And my answer is, shut up, idiot! I made everything myself. So I set up a new Monogame project and started making my own level editor. In this, you can place tiles and remove tiles, and I also decided to put all tiles into one tile sheet or one image, and this saves me from creating images for every tile and also saves memory. Then I added some basic UI that would allow me to swap between tiles. At this point I already decided how I was going to structure the levels. Each level contains rooms, or screens if you will, and the camera swaps between these rooms depending on where the player is in the level. This is basically how Celeste manages its levels, and it makes sure the player will most of the time have a clear goal in sight. I represent these rooms in the editor as white outlined boxes, and the one you're selecting is red. I wrote a basic camera class to move around the scene in the editor, and a console system to add rooms to the level. I decided to add the ability to change what type of collision a tile has, and it's represented by a color on the tile. Blue is full, red is the kind where you can jump through it, and no color means it has no collision. I also added the ability to add spawns to rooms that would act as checkpoints and set the start spawn of the level. It's a place where the player first loads into the level. Then finally I added the ability to save and load levels. I had a clear idea of how I was going to load levels into the actual game. I thought rendering every tile individually would have some heavy performance issues, and on bigger boards it would bring down the FPS considerably. So my idea was to load each level as an image. When the level manager loads a level, it will create a texture for each room and run through all the tiles, and it will acquire the pixel data for each tile and place it into the texture. So this means that I'll only have to have one draw call per room, which speeds up performance quite a bit. After successfully getting the level to load in the game, I wrote a basic camera class for swapping between rooms. I decided to add wall jumping to the game, and it worked completely fine. Next, I wanted to add a thing called coyote time to the game, where you're still able to jump for a very short amount of time after falling off a ledge. I also added jump buffering, which basically makes your jump register for a little amount of time even if you weren't on the ground when you press the jump button. This makes the game feel more responsive and helps get rid of that feeling of, but I pressed the button and it didn't do anything. I also made pressing T toggle the speed of time so you could see these things happening more easily. Even though our little red box here has been serving pretty good as a placeholder, I wanted to make character sprites, so bye Mr. Red Box. This character sprite is still a placeholder until I either get better at making art or commission someone to make art for me. I noticed this bug with the walls where if you were to run up to a wall and then jump, it would think you were hitting a ceiling and stop the player. I fixed this by optimizing the way the colliders work. Previously I had been loading box colliders for every tile in the scene, but I wrote a little algorithm in the level loader to optimize the squares into rectangles. This pretty much fixes the bug, but also makes the game run faster. I wanted to add a system for setting up and loading backgrounds in the game with some parallax. If you don't know what parallax is, it's basically a phenomenon that affects the way we perceive things moving in the world. It's easy to notice if you're in a moving car and you look out and you see trees nearer to you moving faster than the ones in the background. So that's basically what parallax is. And it's also the reason why the moon seems to follow you in the sky. It's because it's so far away and so big that it looks like it has no apparent movement. I also added a new part to the level files to state what sky it will be using and background layers with adjustable distance values. Notice that the sky doesn't move, but the clouds seem to move, but a lot less than the foreground. Finally, I wrote my own very basic particle class and added some dust to various actions in the game. This pretty much concludes the devlog, if you even want to call it a devlog, but I've been wanting to make this video ever since I started on the project, but I always procrastinated and just focused way too much on the actual project and other projects I've been working on. I hope this video has been enjoyable to you and you like the game I'm working on. If you want me to make another video like this and you have some suggestions on what you'd like to see me do or change, please tell me in the comments.